Let's talk about weight. Just to be clear, this video isn't going to be an exercise on ranting about being overweight or obese and telling you that you're a bad person because you're one of those two things. This video is going to be about just having an honest conversation about our weight and how it can affect us physically and in turn potentially affect our ability to do the job within emergency services. Having said that, I get it, I've done it, we've all been there. We've all put on those extra pounds throughout Christmas or over holidays or just throughout social periods where we're just not keeping a check on our diet or our training, and then the weight just starts to creep up on those scales, or your clothes are starting to get a little bit snug. It happens. You know, our weight fluctuates throughout life due to numerous reasons. Now, as I said, this video is just about how we're going to look at keeping a track of our weight and just some tactics to keep in mind about tracking our weight. We all know that maintaining a healthy weight is crucial for our overall well-being. It doesn't just affect our physical health, but it does play quite a significant role in reducing various health conditions. You can Google it, you can YouTube it. There is tons and tons and tons of information out there. The evidence is there. Like, if you're overweight or even obese, it's going to affect your health. So when I first started working in the emergency services, I was 90 kilograms. I did a lot of sport, I was running a lot, I was in quite decent shape. Within 2 years, I ballooned up to 117 kilos. I was quite a chunky boy, and I didn't do a lot of running, wasn't much good for running, but if you wanted something held still, then, you know, I pretty much just sat on it, yes. For me, I first started noticing issues because my knees started to ache and my lower back started to ache as well, and I was getting out of breath far too easily as well, and that's just never a good sign. I did kind of like bury my head in the sand a bit with it, if I'm going to be honest, because I was quite arrogant with it, really, because I was still training, just not as much as I was, and I was still eating relatively healthily, but my portion control was way off. I also just wasn't preparing myself for shift work at all. I would be, particularly on a night shift, I'll be driving along, I'd get hungry, and I'd just be like, I'll just pull into Mackey's and I'll get the old chicken legend with chips. Of course I'll make it a large because, you know, I'm a big boy, and I'd maybe get a McFlurry or two, and then just, you know, absolutely gorge myself. And in addition to that, you had people bringing in cakes and biscuits and donuts for, you know, because they either messed up, it was people's birthdays, you name it, and I would just have the old donut or bit of cake here and there, and I was doing that 3 or 4 times a week in each shift. And then at the end of the shift, you'd get home and I'd be like, oh yeah, it's been a stressful shift, I need to wind down with 2 or 3 beers or glasses of wine. And I then do it again on my rest days as well, particularly after a rugby game. I'd have a few cheeky ones, and the pounds just started piling on. It just started rolling on, and as well as me. And, you know, as I said, I buried my head in the sand. And when I looked at my weight, I'd check it out on, you know, the BMI, and it would tell me that I was obese, and I'll be like, oh well, you know, it's because of muscle, because I'm training so much or whatever. And it's just like, no, let's have a sit down and proper conversation with yourself about this, mate. Like, get yourself in order. You can do better than this. And I know that BMI isn't representative of the individual, but it's a good reference point. You know, if you check out your BMI and it's telling you that you're overweight, or and it's telling you that you're obese, have a serious and honest conversation with yourself and have a good look at yourself and just be like, maybe, just maybe, I don't need that chicken legend with the 2 McFlurries and large chips. Maybe I don't need that extra bit of cake. Maybe I don't need 3 or 4 donuts or 4 or 5 beers. You know, there are far better ways of winding down, and there are far better ways on getting your nutrition in. So for me, it started to turn around when, as I said, I had a good hard look at myself. I was like, nah, mate, I need to get my weight under control, because I felt like it was starting to affect my health, and it was certainly starting to affect my ability to do the job I felt. Why is it so important for emergency service workers to keep an eye on their weight? Well, even without the kit, the equipment and everything else on top, if you're just 5 kilograms overweight, you're going to be putting roughly an extra 13 to 27 kilograms of extra pressure through your knees. And that's even when you're just going across a flat surface. And you know, as well as I do, that if you're working in the emergency services, you are not going to be going across just flat surfaces. You're going to be going up and down stairs, across fields, over objects like walls, fences, sometimes cars, you know, and that extra pressure is going to have an effect on your knees. And that's without even taking into account the extra pressure that's going through your hips. I think it's doubled through your hips as well. Like, that's a lot of pressure. And for me, I would much rather keep myself in shape than having to spend 9 months to a year in an office doing a load of admin work, which I don't really want to do, because I'm waiting for an operation or just for my knee or my hip to heal. And also, it's just uncomfortable. It's just not nice. But like, so getting back to the kit, I mean, if you're a police officer, I think your body armor weighs something like an extra 5 to 6 kilograms anyway. So you put that on, you get an extra 5 kilos going through your knees already. You know, if you're a firefighter, that's even more so. I think it's something like an extra 25 to 30 kilograms of weight on your body when you're fully kitted up. That's an absolute mental amount of extra weight going through your knees. That's so much more pressure. I think it's something like, let me have a look. It is, it's an extra nearly 100 kilograms going through your knees. You know, that's a lot of pressure. That's me going through your knees. You know, you wouldn't want like a rugby prop sitting on your knees all the time, would you? No, you wouldn't. And the services are looking at new ways, whether it be fire, whether it be police, whether it be ambulance service. They are looking at ways of making kits lighter, more effective, so we don't have to carry as much. But we can seriously help ourselves by keeping our weight in check and just having an honest conversation with ourselves and being like, and yeah, maybe if you want to use the BMI, use the BMI, but there's other methods of measuring ourselves. You know, like for example, using the scales and keeping ourselves on point with our weight and be like, okay, I want to be X amount of weight. I'm going to try and keep as close to X amount of weight. I'm not saying that you need to absolutely kill yourself like a professional boxer does, you know, with the sweatsuits and skipping rope and things like that, but just being mindful of that weight and just not allowing it to creep up. To feel as if I've laboured the point enough about why you need to keep your weight in check, with it being with the physical health implications, the health risks with it, how it can affect you with injuries in terms of being an emergency service worker. I think I've laboured on enough about that. So how do I keep my weight in check? I keep my weight in check by doing 3 things. First thing being is that I weigh myself on the scales, and I do it consistently. And by that I mean I do it twice a week, first thing in the morning when I've woken up. And I do it first thing in the morning because I'm at my most emptiest, to put it in a very crass manner. I've finished my morning ablutions, I've jumped on the scales, and that number that's on the scales is the number that I weigh. I have eliminated as many confounding variables as I can, and I say this because I've done it numerous of times, and I bet you have as well. You've jumped on the scales, it's shown you a number which you don't like and you don't agree with, and now you're getting in an argument with it, and you're just like, oh well, I did have a big dinner, I did have a big breakfast, and you're finding you start trying to pull all these excuses as to why the number isn't the number that you want it to be. Just accept the number as it is, like you weigh that much. Number 2, I categorize my clothes into 3 sections, and I bet you probably do already, but you're just not aware of it yet. So section 1 of my clothes is the clothes, at the risk of sounding vain, are the clothes that make me look and feel good. So they show off your figure, they show off your booty, they make you look and feel really good about yourself because you're feeling nice and slim, you're feeling nice and sharp, and you're like, yeah, I look good in those particular trousers, or and they are like your ideal clothes when you're trying to make a good impression. Section number 2 clothes are the clothes that I wear on my everyday. So I literally chuck them on and I go out the door to go to the shops, go into town, or on my way to work, or even just my uniform, like the clothes that I wear for work. They're my section 2 clothes because they're comfortable, they're just what they are. You use them every day. And then you have your section 3 clothes, are what I call my fat clothes. So I tend to wear these clothes when I'm feeling extra chunky and super chubby, and that normally comes after I've gone to a social occasion or a special event such as birthdays, celebratory drinks, or nice dinners and things like that, and I've overeaten and I've overdranken, and the next day I'm feeling super bloated, I'm feeling a little bit chubby, and I just want to be comfortable. So I'll chuck those on, and those are my fat clothes. The third thing that I do is that I measure my waist circumference, and the reason why I measure my waist circumference is because if I'm jumping on the scales and I'm creeping up in weight, and I measure my waist, I can see if the weight is going on around my midriff, and if it's going on around my midriff, I know I'm putting on fat. And again, it's about being honest with yourself, and it's like a case of I'm getting chubby, and you need to keep an eye out for this, especially if you have a particularly stressful job, or like for example the emergency service workers, or if you're a guy, because guys are more likely to put on their weight around their midriff because of the extra bit of testosterone. In addition to that, getting back to being the high stress thing, you have 2 types of stress hormones. You have adrenaline, which we all know about. It's the stress hormone that allows you to lift cars off of babies. It's what hits you when you're going into fight or flight mode, when you're on your way to a 999 call, or something stressful's happened and you're instantly reacting to it. You then have cortisol. Adrenaline takes roughly about 24 hours to get out of your system. Cortisol, however, is another type of stress hormone, and that accumulates, and that can take roughly 6 months to get out of your system with little to no stress. And you know as well as I do, if you work in emergency services or you have a high stressful job like a nurse in a hospital, or a kindergarten teacher with kids who just don't want to shut up, you're not going to get rid of that stress. It's going to sit there, and it's going to take even longer to get out of your system. Now, cortisol can be problematic because when you've got high levels of cortisol in your system, when you put on weight, particularly fat, you're more likely to store it around your midriff. And I can't remember why, but when you have high levels of cortisol, fat tends to deposit around your midriff, and that's where it's dangerous, because obviously that's what leads to chronic health issues over a long period of time. So getting back to it, 3 things that I do in order to keep my weight in check are jump on the scales. Don't be scared of the scales. They're just scales. They're just putting up a number. Use that number. Be mindful of that number, but it's just a number. Number 2 is be aware of how you feel within your clothes, within your body. So if you're starting to get aching knees and you're starting to get an aching back, as I mentioned earlier, I started to get out of breath. If you're getting out of breath and you haven't just recovered from a cough or a cold or the flu, or you're not currently going through that type of illness, and you're getting out of breath far too easily, then that might be a sign to you that you need to start reining in a bit. And number 3, measure your waist. Try and understand where your weight is being displaced on your body. Cool. I hope that's helped. I sincerely hope that's helped. I hope that's given you things to think about, and I hope that's given you some things to use to help you keep your weight in check. If you have any other topics that you want me to cover, like for example, talk more at length about cortisol, please comment below, subscribe to the channel, like the video. Stay tuned, fitness out.